Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Bible Thumper Podcast, where somebody's going to say it. My name is Patrick Hayes, your regular host, and with me today, all the way from about 3 miles across town, my friend Stephanie Kettle. Stephanie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you, Patrick?
I am wonderful. I'm so glad that we didn't have any audio-video problems, no technical difficulties at all. We just decided to start a half an hour late tonight.
We were just enjoying each other's company so much.
Okay, so Stephanie was kind enough to join me tonight. Now, Stephanie, you are the second lady I've had visit on the Bible Thumper podcast in the studio. So as I said to the first lady we had as a visitor, don't make me regret it.
Never.
And I really do appreciate coming on because today fell apart a little bit. So I wasn't ready to do what I was planning on doing. So I was in search of a friend, and you will be happy to know that you were only the...
Do you even have that many friends?
No, I don't. You were the third person I called. So, and the first one to say yes. So you're on. Right. So, Stephanie, you and I were talking about bringing up the topic of problems with modern day churches and Christianity.
Yes.
What made you think of that subject?
Because we've talked about it before.
Okay, we have. So, let me ask you this. You and your husband go to a church now.
Correct.
How long have you been there?
5 years.
You've been there 5 years.
4 or
And
5
before
years.
that, how long were you looking for a church? How many churches did you visit before you found one you liked?
I want to say 5 or 6. And that was over 6-month period or 4 to 6 month period, probably.
Okay. I don't think that's really abnormal, do you?
To church hop?
No, I meant when you're looking for one.
No.
You know, it's not like you would continually go to a different church for a month at a time. Like you were looking for one, so you would try one out and you'd spend between a month to 2 months at each church trying to see if it was for you, and you decided it was not. You went looking for one.
Yeah, I mean, some churches it was like after the first one, no.
It just
no.
wasn't for you.
Yeah.
You could tell.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you I use your husband's name on this podcast?
I'm sure he's fine with
Okay,
it.
because they're going to look him up online and he's going to get swamped with fan mail. And
He does on Facebook.
okay. So did you and Nick have did you have like a plan that you came up with, or any principles that you were like, okay, we don't want this, we want this? Or was it more like, let's just try one, our friends invited us, let's go there and we'll talk about it when we get home?
Kind of like that, yeah.
Okay.
And then by church hopping, we were able to be like, well, no, definitely don't that or don't want that, or, you know, and we ended up trying the one we're currently at because it's where Serenity was going to preschool at the time. And it's attached to a church.
So they have a school there.
They do.
I'll tell you what, that is a good way to get people to your church. Now, I take issue with churches having schools.
Why?
The reason is simple. The school ends up running church. So here's the idea. Churches already have issues with the people in the pews running the church. And by that, I mean, you have a mortgage payment, you have salaries for the church, you need people. People equal tithing and giving and money to support the budget. So there's already a danger of people running the church rather than letting the Word of God do it.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a school, then you have the problem of the school running the church and decisions being made to keep the school going. And what ends up happening in, I don't want to say a lot or a little, because I think I'd just be making up, how many. But what you end up happening is you'll have the church budget bleeding over to the school to subsidize it and take care of the school, because most Christian schools do not charge what they need to pay for teachers and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you end up having the church run the school.
I'm not sure about that. I do know I pay equivalent or close to what I would pay to have her
in a different
preschool or daycare.
Okay. So now the other thing and this is my suggestion, and don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting pastors or churches to listen to me because no one's asking for my opinion. What I think should happen is the Christians in the church that say, we don't want our kids in public school. And I get that. That's a common idea, especially if you have a church of a couple thousand people and they come to the pastor and they're like, look, we don't want our kids in public school. We would like to start a Christian school. Hey, pastors are going to deal with that. That's pretty common. What I think the pastor should do at that point is they should say, great, start a Christian school. Go ahead and start one. There's nothing stopping you guys from starting a Christian school. I will support it. I will encourage people at this church to send their kids there instead of going to a public school, but it will have nothing to do with this church. Now, if you need a place, you can rent a room or a couple of rooms or whatever from the church building, so we can have a loose connection. And furthermore, the people in church can run it. So you have a handful of parents that want to run the school. Great. One of them is the principal. Handful of church members that are parents are going to be the school board. A couple more are going to be the teachers. You're going to hire some teachers that you find that you like. Great. All that is great. It is not going to be a church school.
I don't know if it is. I know it's just preschool.
Sure. So they don't even have grade school or anything else.
No, it's like you have to be potty trained. So let's say 3 to 5. And then in the summer, they'll take up to like 10 years old, I think. Sure.
Now that can be a big moneymaker for a church.
I don't know how affiliated it is with the church.
Yeah. It might not be.
I have no idea. I have literally no idea.
Well, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that there's necessarily anything wrong with it. I can't really say that it is or is not biblical or unbiblical. I'm just saying my experience has been separate those things. You're going to save yourself some headaches, speaking as a pastor.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys ended up at your church after visiting several that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
What didn't you like?
One of them was the amount of money they were putting into just the worship service. Like there was fog machines and all these lights and screens, and that someone walked around with a video camera.
Sure.
And that just didn't feel like a good use of me.
Sure.
It
was a big production.
Right. And that.
So no. Go ahead. Yeah.
It just didn't feel right to us.
So I have a family that we rent a property to, and their son-in-law is a professional musician, and he is oftentimes hired out to play at a church like that.
Oh.
So you got to understand, the people that are doing the singing and the playing of the instruments and all that stuff, they might not even go there.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're hired because of their talent, not necessarily because of.
So they might not even be Christian.
Of course. That's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. The churches that, like this one that we're currently going to, they're part of the congregation. Because we see them, and
Yeah. They're around.
This one might, because we were church hopping, I have no idea if they were part of the church or not. But
okay.
It just felt, I guess it depends on where that money's coming from.
Sure.
And how they're using it. But it didn't feel right. And then there was another one that the sermon was, if you prayed for someone they weren't healed, then you weren't being right, because God wants everyone healed.
Was that a Pentecostal church?
That was
you don't have to say the name of
it. I can't. I'm not denominational. Is what I think.
Okay. Sounds Pentecostal to me if I were to have to render a guess. Okay. So you didn't like the doctrine as far as preaching went?
Yeah, that just didn't sit right with me because, with my mom's cancer and everything.
Oh, you went through that.
I had already gone through that by this point. So, and I just don't agree with it. There's several points in the Bible where
100% right.
Yeah. Sometimes people get healed and sometimes that's God's will.
Absolutely.
So I didn't agree with that.
Yep.
So those were two that we never went back to again.
It was just one and done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I feel like big mega churches don't address the harder subjects. It's always all the feel good,
what?
all the feel good, like stuff that you leave and feel good about your Christianity and Jesus and God, and it doesn't make you grow. It doesn't make you question yourself. Those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying that you found a correlation with the size of the church and the depth of the preaching?
Yes, in my limited experience. But
yeah, that's fine. Keep in mind, we're not asking you as a pollster,
right.
commenting. Just that's all we're talking about is your experience.
The bigger ones that have, drawing in congregation, that seems to be a big part of it. Drawing in just more people, and to draw in more of the common people, you would need softer messages that the common person wants to hear.
What you're saying is not unfamiliar. I've said the same thing. I've heard other people say the same thing. I'm just trying to get, your experience about it. Keep in mind, the idea, again, is one of the dangers of churches across the board for pastors is you are going to be struggling with teaching the Bible and making the people happy, because happy people keep coming back, and people often don't give if they're going somewhere else. So that's the struggle that you're always up against. Luckily for us, we don't worry about that. So we just have a revolving door of all the people that come in, hear me preach, and leave forever. So we haven't had to struggle with that. But that is a concern. So okay. What else have you found that was a problem?
I guess would you call that watered down Christianity? The same thing?
Sure.
Okay.
As far as the people or the preaching?
The preaching.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we can all be watered down Christians at one or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I can't remember why we didn't like them.
Okay.
I don't think it was I don't think it was that we didn't necessarily. I guess it didn't feel like home.
Okay.
If nothing particularly wrong with it, it just didn't feel right.
And that's fine. Joanna and I went through the same thing that you went through, except our experience lasted several years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really fair, because in that time we found two different churches that we stayed for a while, for more than a year. But we still, I want to say it was like 5 years of looking before we finally found home, which,
is home.
Yeah, is our home church where I'm the pastor. Okay, so when you guys were going through this process, you were saying, okay, we don't like this, we don't like that, this isn't really for us. Did you at any time say these are the parameters as far as what we're looking for now?
I think we had some conversations about things we wanted, things we didn't, especially after each church. It was like, well, I didn't like that. Mm-hmm. Going back there, I knew I didn't want a mega church because for a lot of reasons. One of them was it doesn't feel very personal. Mm-hmm. Also is one of them. Like, you walk in and there's so many people, not everyone can greet somebody, and you can walk in and walk out and never talk to another person.
Sure.
But I also didn't like the social anxiety within me. Was like, this is too many people.
Too many. So you preferred medium to smaller,
something that could also feel more personal, where we could connect with people.
Yeah.
Make a couple friends or get involved with a small group where we actually knew the people. And it wasn't just some random, like, you sign up for a small group and they designate you to someone and you've never seen the people in your life.
Yeah. And, the way that bigger churches try to get over that hump is they have a small group that meets in someone's home throughout the week, and they try to, break everyone up, and you sign up for these groups, and hopefully you make some friends at some kind of small group. The churches that I came from, which are independent Baptist churches, they try to break up the church by Sunday school. Mm-hmm. So they have Sunday school classes, and the idea or the hope or the goal is that you would, find a little bit of a smaller atmosphere and family kind of togetherness in those small groups. And that is the way they hope to overcome that issue. Because again, I've heard lots of people say the same thing. When Joanna and I started our church and we started inviting people, I was amazed at how many people thought it was awesome that we met in our home and that it was a pretty small church.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that as a selling point. I found out it actually was. People thought it was great.
People hang out afterwards and talk and eat.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's nice. I don't know. And I like, one thing I have issue with just like church in general, which is for me.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
The kind of the holier than thou Christians of you're not doing it right, or if you've had a certain past or this or that.
Yeah.
And that's a real turnoff for me. Sure.
I think it's a turnoff for a lot of people. So one thing that, okay, so are you saying you don't feel that at my house?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still working up the courage to talk to more than one person. I talk to you. I talk to Joanna.
Sure.
I talk to your kids. I talk to my husband.
Yeah.
And then I will usually try to talk to one person I haven't talked to.
Sure. But you're saying that you don't get that feeling at our place.
No.
Which is great. If there's one thing I would like everyone to get when they come to our place is that we are normal people. We're just normal people, and we're not trying to put on
Are we normal though?
Okay, we're all a bunch of weirdos, but we are ourselves, and we're fine with that. Like,
yeah, well, that's the thing with churches is like everyone puts on their Sunday best and they go and they pretend to be.
Yep.
I never cuss, I never drink, I never smoke for an hour.
Yeah.
Sunday.
I know, and I agree. I've never liked that. I don't think a lot of people like it because nobody likes phony. Like, tell me where you appreciate me.
TV. Movies.
There you go. Okay, with actors and actresses, right? But outside of that, I mean, who is looking for that? You want people to be themselves. And okay, so why do you think everyone does that?
Ego, or we all want to pretend to be awesome people.
Mm-hmm.
All I can think of is it's ego, is what it is.
We just want to. Okay, so then. And I know we talked about this before in other places. There are basically 3 different ideas as far as who you are. There is who you want people to think you are. And then there is who people will think you are. And then who you actually are. And the fact is, we don't get a say in any of those. All we can do is try to be ourselves. And people are going to figure it out one way or another. So I think anytime everyone is a phony, all it does is turn people off as soon as they walk in the door.
Mm-hmm. Or it perpetuates the phoniness. Like, you feel like when you go to church, you have
now you have to be phony to
fit in.
Yeah.
And I think that fitting in want is very strong.
So there is negative peer pressure in churches.
Yes. Well, I was in a church Bible study, and anytime I shared something like a struggle, a personal struggle, there was a lady who would always, you trust God. And maybe it's not your journey. Maybe someone else had to learn something from your mistake or your loss or your this. And I was like, but it's okay to have periods where I struggle with trusting God, or, I just felt like she didn't give me space to not.
It was okay for you to be wherever you are.
Yeah, that's how it felt.
No, I totally get that. I run into the same thing. So, do you know, when are we getting together next time to talk?
I might have it in my phone.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I know
what
it's in
It's
August.
Next month. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's next month.
August 20. Maybe not. I have it on my calendar.
That's fine. Well, more important was what we're going to be talking about. So next month, we don't know the Sunday yet, but it is written down somewhere. Stephanie and I are going to be talking about Christians in recovery. So do you want to tell everyone about where we met?
I can. It's going to be my version.
Go. Okay, I got it. Go. Your version.
We met at an AA meeting, and I was under the stairs smoking because I used to smoke cigarettes. And Patrick walks up and
as a Christian?
Yes.
Okay.
I also listened to some music with cuss words on the way there. I know.
Folks, I'm sorry. We're going to have to end this podcast early. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're just going to play you out. Stephanie, you can go ahead and Just walk out that door there.
So I saw Patrick walk up and he looked like he was looking around, and I was like, "Are you looking for the meeting? It's right up there." And he's like, "I know where the meeting is." And then he huffs up the stairs.
Huffs up the stairs.
Mm-hmm. Like that. And yeah, that was it.
Okay. So the important takeaway from that is that Stephanie and I met at an AA meeting, and we used to go to meetings together regularly.
Yeah, and then I found a new
for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a couple years.
Probably.
Yeah. So then anyway, you found a new meeting, so
That
we don't
fit
see
my
each other.
schedule,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we don't see each other anymore. But because of that, Stephanie and I have experience together with groups that we can compare to churches. And one of the things that's very different about an AA meeting is everybody is encouraged to be themselves, and it's okay for you to be yourself. As a matter of fact, when you are not yourself, you're not helping yourself or anybody else in the group. So that's why, especially for an alcoholic, it's like, blow my brains out, when you go to a church where everyone is acting like a phony.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't realize, because I've been going to church since I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I never experienced the same authenticity that I have in AA meetings.
Yep.
I was like, well, people can talk about this stuff and be authentic with a room full of people that barely know them.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that in a lot of churches.
Nope. So when I was this is like 6, 7, actually my daughter's 9 or 10. This might be like 9 or 10 years ago. I was at another church and I ran a very large Sunday school class, and I ran an addictions program out of that church. And it was very popular, and we had a lot of the same feel because I, obviously know a lot about addiction and recovery. And because of that, people really enjoyed my Sunday school class. Like, I would have dozens of people come to my Sunday school class and then not go to the church service in the morning because they enjoyed being around everybody there, because they felt like people were themselves and it was comfortable and natural. And then the church service was definitely on the faker and stuffier side. So a lot of them didn't want to come. And when I would ask them about it, that's what they tell me. They're like, yeah, we don't fit in there. Like, they'd get dirty looks when they'd smoke cigarettes out front before they'd come in. And for me, I told the pastor when we started this addictions program, I said, I need an ashtray out front. He's like, what? I said, I need an ashtray out front. And he's like, well, I don't know if that's okay. I was like, well, they're either going to flick the cigarette butts in the, parking lot, or they'll put them in the ashtray. But you pick. But what we're not going to do is stop smoking just because it's church.
Yeah.
And anyway, I got my ashtray, but it was such a foreign concept. And so that I smoke. Okay,
cigars.
That I smoke cigars. When we were looking for churches, I would go out of my way to find a time when I could smoke a cigar in front of everyone at the new church I was going to. And I would do that on purpose. And you want to guess why?
To see others' reactions.
You got it. To see everybody's reaction, because based on those reactions, I knew who I could get along with. And if I had someone come up to me and tell me that I couldn't smoke a cigar at the church softball game while I'm, eating a hot dog or whatever, that to me was hysterical, because I'd be like, well, actually, it's a public park and I can, and I'm going to, because I'm a fully grown man and I can do whatever I want. But a lot of folks, they'd have a heart attack if they knew that. And it's like, man, wait until you see the folks and start inviting to your church, So, okay. So, problems with modern day Christianity. Change gears here from churches to Christianity. Or actually, you know what? How about this? Didn't you bring some questions to ask me? I've been asking you a bunch of questions.
I was just going to ask, what made you, because you were agnostic previously, correct?
I was an atheist.
Oh, atheist.
And then and then after I went through rehab and started going to recovery, first Narcotics Anonymous and then Alcoholics Anonymous, I became a theist with no discernible qualities beyond that. I knew there was a God, but that was it. Yeah.
So what attracted you to Christianity? Why?
It's a great question. I ended up in Yosemite National Park working for a summer. And there was a fellow named Matt. I can't remember his last name. If he hears this, I'd love to reconnect with the guy. And he came out there from Illinois. He was at a college in Illinois, and he came out with Campus Crusade for Christ. And he came out to park with his girlfriend and a group of college kids to start Bible studies for the college kids that worked in the park, because thousands and thousands of colleges from around the country and around the world would come to that park and work there for summer, because they gave you room and board and you got to live in the most beautiful place in the world, a very nice national park. So there were lots of, it was a great opportunity to do those things. Anyway, his girlfriend dumped him like the day they were driving out there, and she started dating some other dude. It was hysterical. I felt so bad. I met him like right after that. The wind was taken out of his. He did not care about Bible studies or anything anymore. He just was out there licking his wounds and watching his girlfriend, fall in love with this other guy. His girlfriend was a sweetheart. I met her as well, and we were friends. The other guy I never got to. Anyway, I'm off in the weeds. He spent the whole summer out there. I don't think he gave the gospel to one single person. He handed out, as far as I know, exactly one Bible while he was there. Give it to me. I said, thank you. I got a very ambiguous gospel presentation. And it was just a New Testament, wasn't the Old Testament as well. And I started reading through it. I always wanted to read the Bible because I never, even held one. That first Bible I held in my life, as far as I knew. I was maybe 20 years old, I think. So I started reading through it, and I started in Matthew and just read through it. And everything I read that Jesus said, I thought to myself, this is brilliant. I mean, all of this stuff is great. If I start living my life the way he says, things are going to get better. So I would start implementing things that Jesus said to do into my life. And I noticed I had positive reactions from every human I interacted with. And so I continued. I was like, I got to do more of this. This is great. So I continued doing that for, oh boy, I don't know how long. I got all the way through Testament. I started to go to church because I was curious and I wanted to know more, and I met more Christians, and I finally got the gospel given to me clearly. And that's when I got saved and, went from there. But it was really just a random guy that I become friends with, that we worked together, and he gave me a Bible and gave me the gospel, and away I went. Now, I should tell you that I found out later that there were several Christians in my life that were praying for me to get saved. For by that time, it must have been, 5 or 10 years. So I think all that put together, God was working on me, and that was it. And I'll tell you this, I did not choose Christianity because it worked out with my lifestyle. Even though I was done drinking and doing drugs at that time, I went to a state college. I was chasing after women. I was gambling. I was just doing anything I wanted to because I didn't really have much of a moral code. I stopped doing and selling drugs and burglarizing houses to make money to buy drugs. But beyond that, I was living as worldly lifestyle as any 20-year-old guy could. So Christianity did not fit with my lifestyle. I didn't pick it because I thought it would be a good fit. I picked it because it was the truth and I couldn't get around it. So for me, that was it. I ever told you that before?
I don't think so.
Okay. What else you got?
What's your biggest struggle today as a Christian?
You told me you were going to ask me that. So let me give you a broad stroke. Biggest struggle is sin. Is that too broad?
Broad.
I can elaborate more.
I would like that.
Okay. So currently I am trying to stop cursing.
Mm.
Yeah. So not just cursing, also using euphemisms. Oh, shoot.
Mm.
Shoot is a euphemism. It's a clear replacement for the word
Frick.
dang. You got it. Yeah. Gosh darn. Okay, so
What about heck?
Heck. So I'm just trying to clean it up. Your husband was a good inspiration for me because he's really good about that. He's got so many glaring problems, but as far as not cursing, he really does a great job.
He's my inspiration too.
Well, and I admire him for that because it's been a struggle for me, and I'm like decent at it. I'm good. You know where I'm good enough at it?
Church.
In church.
You got your pastor pants on.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm good enough to not have to do it like on the podcast or at church, and I can do it, and I can be better at certain times. And I'm like, you know what? I'm better than this. I can do this. This is not beyond me. I need to clean up my mouth. So, for me, that's one where it's like, I want to be able to say that because I used to not curse ever. And anyway, I want to get back there. But the problem is simply sin. When I got saved, I was kind of hoping that the desire for sin would just, be turned off. And it wasn't. I was the same sinful SOB that I was, before I got saved.
Kind of like stop drinking, you hope, like
You
just
got
good peaches and cream, right?
Better right away. And it took time. And still, all of my shortcomings and failures are due to sin. My shortcomings, failures as a husband, as a father, as a pastor, as everything. That's the biggest problem, is that I don't get to escape this body made of flesh. The world is still going to entice me with sin. The devil is still going to work on me, trying to get me sin. And that's where all my faults and failures are. Every good thing you see Patrick Hayes do is because God is working through me at that time, and I'm letting him. And every time, I hurt somebody, I do something, stupid or offensive or anything, it's because Patrick Hayes is in control, and I'm not led by the Spirit. Is that a better one? You can follow up with more specific questions. I really like questions. And one of the struggles on this podcast is I think that people think like, oh, it's Patrick's podcast. He has to do most of the talk. I would rather that other people, lean in and ask questions and run the show more, because I'm having a guest. So, I'd like to hear from them. Okay. So what was your question for me? What's the biggest struggle? Okay. Stephanie, what's your biggest struggle? And you can't say sin because I already took that.
I didn't know I was going to be boomeranged.
Oh, yeah. If you ask me a good question, I got to hold up the mirror and give it to you. You can avoid it. I can ask you a different one if you don't want. Okay.
I don't trust the next question you're going to ask.
It's only going to get harder and more specific.
I guess my biggest struggle as a Christian today, like in this period now, would be probably making sure that I'm still connecting with God even when I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. Mm-hmm. I guess I really struggle.
Tell me what you mean.
Praying, even though I'm like, I know I'm always a sinner,
sure.
Always, but there's sometimes where things are more glaring than others.
Yeah.
And during those times, I tend to kind of be like Jonah. It's like, I'm going to run and God won't see me. Or I need to clean myself up first before I go and pray.
I totally get that. And that's something I have to fight against. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this question. Do you struggle with the idea that all your sins forgiven, no matter what you do, that's already been forgiven? You can't be any more forgiven. And God can't love you any more than he already does. So therefore, when you mess up, it should take that long for you to get back on the horse and ride with God.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that, like in my mind. Yeah. And I know scripture that backs that up.
Yep.
But it's like getting it to here. And I had a dad who's conditionally loving, who,
Mhm.
if I wasn't on my best behavior or this or that, it made things difficult.
Mhm.
And so I think I've correlated that to God the Father.
Totally makes sense.
And so I know God the Father loves perfectly. But it's still that idea of no. Like I need to have done good today. And the thing is, I never will do good enough.
So even in your mind, you'll never do good enough to where now you're at a good place.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes when I start out is, you probably don't want to hear from me, and God probably rolls his eyes.
I don't have a problem with starting a prayer like that. For me, I tell people when you pray honestly. Do you know how many times I start my prayer where I'm like, God, I do not feel like praying right now. I don't feel Christian. I don't feel like talking to you. I don't feel like any of this, but I know I need to. And that's where I'm starting from. So is this okay? Can we start here? I tell people, it doesn't matter how it sounds, be honest. I think let me ask this. How old is Ellie now?
4.
Okay. Last year, when she was 3, what was her vocabulary at 3? How many words?
100. I don't know.
So go back to 2. How many words? What do you think?
10.
Okay. When she was 2 and she would want to talk to you, would you listen to her?
Yeah.
Why?
Because she's my daughter. And
Okay.
what she has to say was important to her.
Okay. And I know it's adorable when a 2-year-old's trying to talk because they only know.
Right.
And it doesn't make any sense. And you're not going to learn anything. Your life is not going to be improved in any way pragmatically from listening to her. But you still do. Why?
Because I love her.
Because you love her. So can we use that as a parable?
Yeah. And I use that a lot that's actually helped. Having kids of my own has helped a lot with
your relationship with
my
God.
relationship with God. But I think there's still that intrinsic, like just trying to get it from here to here some days.
Absolutely.
Brain to my heart. Some people can't see me. Brain to my heart.
Yeah. So you had an issue with your dad being a poor model of God with his children.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're starting to see you and Nick as a good model with you and your children. Let's say
good.
A better one that is trying.
Yes.
And because of that, you understand the Bible, understand your relationship with God better.
Better, yes. Because I know how much I love them. Mm-hmm. Nothing they could do would make me love them less. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's also because sometimes I feel like I was being punished for this or that. And having one was like, oh, God says no. Mm-hmm. Like I say no to my kids, you can't have chocolate cake for breakfast.
Sure.
Or, no, you can't swallow that penny.
Yeah. Because you know best. I don't care how much the kid wants to do it.
Right.
I'm the parent. I know what's best.
And so I'm like, well, to God and how much I know, I'm probably like the kid trying to swallow the penny.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's like, oh my God.
God, I want to eat that pile of thumbtacks. I don't care what you think.
He's just so exhausted from trying to keep me alive.
Okay. So I think that most Christians struggle with that same idea. Now, in the program, we talk about that as far as, wanting to be healthy before you go to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Right. Some people think like, oh, I'm too much of a drunk. I can't go to an AA meeting. I'm a train wreck. I need to, get my life better or get this thing control. And it's like, no. This is where you come to get the help. Mm-hmm. Just like you go to the hospital when your arm's broken. You don't try to set the bone yourself and put it in a splint.
Right.
And then when you're feeling better, go to the hospital.
Like Jesus came to heal this.
You got it. So same idea. That's, what we're supposed to do when we're going to read our Bible or pray.
Yeah.
Okay. Any others?
So many.
Okay. Give me another question. It's your turn. We'll go back and forth. About anything.
Anything?
Yeah, I don't care. We just got to fill time here. We got 20 minutes.
We got 20 minutes.
I could care less. Our audience could care less what we're talking about. We got one thumbs up. Oh, look at this.
My headset?
Wait. We got So saying hi. We have people talking about the school and church stuff. And,
Man, you
LaRon
really
does it.
slacked. Really
I
slacked
know.
reading the comments.
I wasn't even watching. Someone else is saying that they struggle with cursing. That's encouraging to hear.
The only reason I stopped cursing was because I'm a people pleaser, and my husband.
Wanted to.
Well, we weren't even dating, but we were kind of like interested in each other, and I cussed, and he goes, "I don't think girls cuss are attractive," and I was like,
"That was when you were dating?
Not even dating,
like pre-dating."
Pre-dating, he said, "I don't find girls who cuss attractive."
Did he like look down at you?
It was through text,
and then roll his eyes,
and it wasn't even a cuss word. It was like the at sign and the $2 signs.
So you were like hiding your cuss. You just put the capital F and then
trying to make it
like
endearing.
A cartoon.
Yeah, I was making it endearing. So he goes, "I don't find women who cuss attractive," and I was like, done.
Whoa.
Stopped cussing that day.
Yeah.
Done. Well, at least around him.
Okay.
But I just don't cuss very often unless something scares me or.
Okay, are you ready for this? This is a neat little story. So, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't remember some of the specifics, other than there's a big revival in England. Now, there were several throughout, from the time of Christ until now.
Right.
But during one of them, and I can't remember who the preacher was that was going through England and preaching, but there was such a great revival that almost all work stopped in the coal mines because they couldn't get any of the donkeys to obey them, because they used donkeys in the coal mines, because this is pre-industrial revolution. Right. Because they were so used to beating the donkeys and screaming and cursing at them that the guys couldn't get the donkeys to do anything. Yeah, because everyone was getting saved and they were all changing their lives and they were all stopping. Yeah, physically beating the donkeys and screaming, cursing at them. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of neat stories like that.
I guess something else I struggle with is treat your body like a temple. Drinking the chemicals and.
Okay, let me ask you this. Because first of all, what is that verse most often used against?
Drinking, smoking.
Sure.
Or
you know what's funny?
Going around being intimate with people.
You know what's funny is because I don't hear that used against drinking much, because every Christian knows one or two verses that they can use to support their drinking, no matter what else they're against in the world. And it's funny because I will hear them use that against different things, but they won't use it for alcohol, which I find comical, because alcohol is poison.
Yeah.
It kills brain cells. It absolutely kills you. It just takes a long time to do it. Okay, so so I often hear that one used for doing drugs. I have people bring that up for my smoking. But let me ask you this. Where's the line?
I have no idea. The only first time I heard it was when I was in counseling in high school with a Christian counselor, and it was in reference to my eating disorder at the time.
Sure.
So I have no idea where it is.
Well, because for me, my thought is, and realistically, can I use that for white processed sugar?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm going to die from, Stephanie? Do you know?
No.
Are you a prophetess?
No.
Do you know what your husband's going to die from? We're both going to die from we're both going to die from the same thing. Heart disease. That's the #1 killer of men. Okay, across the board. Do you know what your husband's doctor and my doctor tell both of us every time we go in for a physical?
Lose weight and
lose some weight.
On
you got it. Okay. Every single man in America hears the same thing. We're all going to die from heart disease. I've even asked my doctor, I'm like, does it matter if I smoke 2 or 3 cigars a month? He laughed out loud. No, you need to lose weight, fatso. He said, you're going to die from a heart attack. So that's what they're always telling me, which I thought was funny. But really, I've always thought to myself, okay, if we're going to use that verse and we're going to mean that we are supposed to be doing healthy living, then how do we not use it for our diet? How does that not work for ice cream and fried chicken?
I know. There's a lot of things that seem to be this double standard.
No, in
Christianity.
Christianity,
Yes.
double standard, you say?
I know. I'm blowing your mind here. I know you're shocked.
Yeah. So that was always one where I was like, come on.
Mhm.
First of all, I think it's a cheap shot for anyone to throw that on the table to use against anybody else. Because it's like, if we're going to say that it has to do with anything unhealthy going into our body, who can stand up and say, yep, I'm the model. I'm the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's been like, if ye without sin cast the first stone could ever be used, I think it's on that verse. Anytime I hear someone use that verse, I just roll my eyes and I lose some more respect for them.
I always think it's comical. Like, there's very much like, no drinking too much, don't be a drunkard, and it's like people who are overweight.
Oh yeah.
And it's like,
okay, so I'm going to tell you another story. You know who Charles Spurgeon is?
No. I'm very uneducated and I'm blonde. You're the one who asked me to be on here.
Okay. No, it's okay. Do you know who D.L. Moody is? Okay. You could just shake your head and say, yes, I'm not going to ask you about them.
Yes, I know who. Okay. They're both best friends of mine. We're on name basis.
Okay, good. So D.L. Moody, who was a pastor and preacher during the Civil War, and Charles Spurgeon, who was a contemporary, but he was a pastor over in the nation of England. They were contemporaries. D.L. Moody was a massively overweight man. He was over 400 pounds. Now, he was very tall, too, and he was a big guy. So he carried the weight, better than most of us would over 400 pounds, but he had a big old Santa Claus belly.
Can he carry that much weight?
Yeah, he was a massive man. Now, maybe I need to check.
Are we talking about like Andre the Giant massive?
Yeah, he was like very tall. He was very broad. He was a huge guy. Okay. So, and I might have my numbers mixed up because I'm trying to pull this from a story. I read one of their biographies from a long time. So let's say he was 300 pounds. Is that better?
Sure.
Okay. 350 pounds. But he was always known as a big fat guy. And Charles Spurgeon smoked cigars literally one after another. Yeah, pastor. Yeah, one of the most famous pastors that God used in the history of the world. Okay, so they were together and they were, doing some kind of revival meeting. They were both preaching together when D.L. Moody traveled over to England, and D.L. Moody challenged Spurgeon, and he said, when are you going to give up those cigars? You need to give up those cigars, man. And Charles Spurgeon said, as soon as you get rid of that, and he poked him in the belly like the Pillsbury Doughboy. And the point was simply, there are two men, they were both used of God in great ways. They did wonderful things for the Lord, and they both had their hang-ups. D.L. Moody was overweight. Charles Spurgeon smoked like a chimney, and it's easy to pick on somebody for something, especially when it's not the thing you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Holier than that, right?
You got,
we all rate sin in some way or another.
When I was first married, I don't know. I think I was like 165, 170 pounds. I ran a 6-minute mile. And whenever the pastor would preach against, junk food and being overweight, I would scream amen. I don't scream amen anymore. Okay, now I hang my head in shame. Okay, it's your turn. You got a question for me.
I thought I asked the last question. No, we were talking about, I brought this up. It wasn't really a question. It was just
there
saying
wasn't
that's
a question in there. It got us talking for a while. Give me a question.
Oh my God. Gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh.
That's great. We'll edit that out. Go ahead.
Sorry.
About anything. That was your question. You said about anything. I said, yeah, about anything. But then you never got the question.
What's your favorite video game?
It's been a while. I'll tell you what. I really lost a lot of respect for the Far Cry franchise after this last one. They're starting to push the whole, liberal pinko commie, woke mentality nut job agenda in the video games. And I'm sick of it. It's just ruining it for me. In this last one, did you play, what was the name of the last one?
I don't know.
But didn't you play Far Cry?
I played the third one.
Okay, the third one was good. The fourth one was good. After that, the fifth one was called something different.
I remember I saw one sitting at like a table.
Oh no, that was 5. Anyway, I don't even remember what the new one was. But I bought it and I was playing with it, and it was a bunch of anti-American, stuff about how America is so racist and all these problems. And
I don't play video games for politics. I play it for enjoyment.
Exactly. My whole thing is, just shut up and let me play the game. Like, I don't play video games to get into politics. I don't watch professional sports events to get into politics. I want to be entertained. This is the time I don't want to think about anything. I just want to watch a hockey game. That's what I'm down to now, is hockey. It's the only sport I can watch.
Now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Stanley Cup's over. Colorado actually won.
I know. If you and you didn't come over and watch it.
Yeah, we were planning on doing that
podcast.
Yeah.
You were gonna come.
No, because Tuesday was the seventh game. It was the sixth game was on Sunday night, and if there was a seventh, it was on Tuesday.
There wasn't a seventh.
There was a seventh.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not. And now I feel like I'm not going to check my phone. It's not important. Let's just say I was,
because I want to be right. I'm not right against you very often.
Yeah, well, now would be a good time. So long as we're not talking the Bible, I think you have a good chance. Colorado. I'll let you look it up. Avalanche. Boom. Okay. How many games? See, now I gotta scroll through 10 stories to find. Oh, Colorado Avalanche 2022. Here we go. Let's see more. How many games?
Who wins game 6 of the Stanley Cup final?
Was that it?
That's what it says.
See, it doesn't tell me which game it was. Final, June 26th. That was the last one. What was the 26th? Now I got to go to a calendar.
Oh, my goodness.
Let me tell you, this is making for great radio.
I know. Everyone's totally tuned in.
It was a Sunday. You were right. There was no seventh game on a Tuesday. Okay.
18 on July 17th, 2022. So
mark it down, folks. Patrick was wrong. Stephanie was right. Okay. I got to have a...
So your favorite game?
I don't know. Okay, did you play that one where the girl had the mechanical dinosaurs and there was the girl?
No, I saw that. Was it Evolution or
I can't remember the name. That's how long ago it was that I played that.
I've seen I played it.
They only had one. They had several parts of downloadable content that were pretty good, that were pretty large map expansions that I liked a lot. If they came out with another one, I would buy it and play it in a heartbeat. It was great action. It was a third person, a lot like Assassin's Creed. It was an open world. The story was great. It was totally unique. That's what I loved about it. The weapons, the bad guy. I mean, everything was just so different from any other story. So I really liked it. Other than that, a lot of times I'll do, I really like the Tomb Raider, the new ones, the new Lara Croft that are like the prequels.
Is that all PlayStation?
No,
I've seen it on Xbox.
Yeah, I thought they came out with both. I might be wrong again. I'm not sure, but
if it's not Fallout, what?
Oh, really?
Don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people are Fallout only, and you almost have to be.
I'm not Fallout only. I've played BioShocks and
never played BioShocks. Yeah, I've had them suggested to me. Really?
You want to borrow one?
Sure. Okay. No, but you're PS4. Yeah,
Dang nabbit.
You're another one.
Such a problem. Dang nabbit?
I don't know. It sounded bad. We'll ask Nick to weigh in on
that. A curse.
Nick, was that a curse?
Are you watching?
I'm watching the text. Yeah, he sent in a couple of.
Did he say your guest was the most beautiful girl he's ever seen?
No, but he said you write about the hockey game. So, okay. So, question for Stephanie. Tell me this. Do you find any incongruity? I use that word because I didn't know what it meant. I want to try to feel smarter than this podcast now that you had the Colorado Avalanche thing on me. Do you find any incongruity between being a woman who is a Christian in the Bible? Do you find it to be an issue anywhere?
I guess um, the women's can't be leaders thing I've wondered about.
You don't like that?
I don't really particularly care because I have no desire to be a leader.
Get out of here.
But yeah,
Uh-huh.
you know me, I'm super duper follower, about as follower as you get. But I'm just like, why? I guess I'd have to look into it more. Like, why?
Now, so there's two things. Number one, the first answer I would give to that is it doesn't matter, right? The reason why is not relevant. The issue for all of us is to figure out what God says and then obey it, whether we like it or not, understand it or not. Number two, I'm going to say that you are partially wrong. Women can be leaders of other women and children.
Not of men.
Only not of men. That's the only difference.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So have you found any other, but that hasn't been a sticking point that has ruined your day, or?
I don't really care.
That's a relief to hear.
It's something I've wondered. I guess, like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Okay, so let me ask this. Did you know, or do you believe that God made men and women different?
Yes.
In what way?
Our brains work differently. Women are way better at multitasking. Men are much better at compartmentalizing.
Okay, so our brains work different. How else did God make us different?
Our bodies.
Okay, so physically he made us different.
Men are stronger.
Okay, pound for pound, every man is strong. That's a fact. Did you know that women do not have the same muscles that men have protecting their collarbone?
I did not.
Yeah, which is why women should not wrestle. Because when you go in head first and collarbones meet, shoulders meet for a man and a woman, the woman goes, snap. Yeah. It's literally a biological difference that.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can't change.
I knew men were like muscle, fat, muscle.
Okay.
And women are fat, muscle, fat. So
I didn't know that.
It's harder for women to lose weight or get six-packs or super intense muscles.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the way brains work physically, the way they're made. I think everyone would agree with that. Okay. How else did God make us different?
Emotionally,
I agree. So with that as our premise, wouldn't it make sense that God would have different roles since he made us so different?
Yes.
So there's your answer. The reason God said, women, this is your job, men, this is your job, is because he made us different and he knows what we're going to be best at. So that's the simple answer without, really getting in any deeper.
I don't think I've struggled with a lot in the Bible with regards to women. And
yeah,
I think there are some really amazing women in the Bible.
Sure.
That do amazing things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to preach on them. Oh, boy. Okay, your turn for a question.
What is the hardest part about raising children in Christianity, in God?
Okay, so there's a couple answers to that. So number one, I'm going to say, well, if I answer the question without getting off into the weeds, the hardest part is keeping them separate from the world. The idea is, and I'm just going to say this, so many Christians are just fine with their kids looking like the world, acting like the world, thinking like the world, in every way imaginable. And because of this, and even if you say that's the worst case scenario on this side of the spectrum, the next is to have standards that are so pathetically low that you might as well just say whatever you want. But the parents say, no, we toe the line and we have standards. And the kids, like I said, for all intents and purposes, are just like the world. And then all the way on this side, you have parents that are like, this is what the Bible says. This is what we're going to do. the kids on both sides of that spectrum, all in Christian homes, all saved, are going to be very, very different. Problem is, your kids, if you take the Bible very seriously, are going to be strange to a lot of other kids. And that's hard as a child. Growing up, kids already feel weird, different. And to hold them to a standard and to have that standard be because God said, because the Bible said, is weird for a lot of people. So I think kids, it's hard for parents to be okay making standards that they know is going to cause their child to stand out and possibly be the weird kid. And you're doing it because you know that's what God does to do. You love your kids. You know God loves your kids. You want the best for them, so you want them to obey the Bible. That's always hard. Along with that, one of the hardest things with raising kids across the board is consistency. I've never been able to maintain anything like, perfect adherence to those principles. Along with that, I have to know that my kids, especially until they get old enough, are only ever going to rise to the level of my Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they're going to see as normal. So that's what they're going to default to. My hope and my goal is that they have their own relationship with God, that they grow apart from dad, and that they have a desire to run after God with more vigor than I ever did. A struggle for kids is if they ever decide that they want to be real serious about God and they say, God, please use me to do something great. I want to read my Bible. I want to pray. I want to get close to you. And they start taking steps towards God and they start making changes that they believe would please God. Guess where the most resistance comes from?
Yourself.
The parents.
Oh.
The parents don't like it when their kids take a step to be closer to God and have a higher standard than the parent does.
Mm.
The parent,
they take it personal.
You got it. And the parent is often the one that says, oh, you don't have to do that. So and that's even in good Christian homes, you find that, so it's really tough. But I think that's it. I think if you are willing to say what God says is best, that's what I want to do. I don't care what the world thinks. I think you can raise great kids for God. I think they're going to be happy. They certainly can be. I always can hold my kids up as an example, but my kids and I live a very different life than the world. We live a pretty different life than most Christians. And you tell me, are my kids a bunch of socially awkward weirdos?
No.
Okay. They don't have to be.
I've met much worse.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Good. Okay. So we are at an hour. Do you want to keep going? Or you want to call it and call this thing a success?
We should probably see if there's any questions in the comments we want to address.
Let's see. Nick wanted to know, what about the judges that were women and prophets? Okay, so number one, prophets were not necessarily leaders. They would just be used to explain what God wanted to know. As far as the women that were judges, there's one popular one in the book of Judges named Deborah. And Nick, if you'll look up the story of Deborah, you will find out that Deborah only became a judge because no man that was called would step up to do their job. It also never says that Deborah was supposed to step into that role and do it. Okay. It was I believe the lesson there was not a woman being a judge is what God wants and is condoning that. I believe the lesson was men are a failure and they're a pathetic joke, and that's what needs to change. Okay. Thank you, LaRonda, for the compliment about my children. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Bible Thumper podcast. You can find this podcast if you're watching the video on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Audible, Blueberry, all the different places that you can find a podcast. And if you are listening to us on a podcast platform, you can join us every Sunday night at 7 p.m., unless we have audio video problems, on our Facebook and YouTube channel. And those are both found by just simply searching for Bible Thumper Podcast on a Facebook page or a YouTube channel. So please get on those channels, like and subscribe to them. Please do the same thing on a podcast. If you are not following us on Spotify, please get on there and subscribe or like us. I don't even know what you do on Spotify. You do one of those things, right?
I've never been on Spotify.
Perfect. And that'll help us out a lot. With that, you're going to be able to find me on Stephanie's TikTok channel in a month, a couple of weeks.
25th.
How do they find you on TikTok, Stephanie?
They go on TikTok?
Yeah, but how do you, like, there's a handle or a tag or a name, or how do they find you?
S-anonymous. Like anonymous, but S.
S-anonymous.
4:10.
S-anonymous 4:10 on TikTok. You can find Stephanie.
It's a picture of me and Nick.
It's a picture of her and her husband.
Otherwise, guys treat it like a dating app.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so many messages. I'm like, do you watch my videos? It's about recovery. I'm clearly crazy.
Okay, so Stephanie has a TikTok channel that she dedicated completely to alcoholism and recovery, and she has lots of videos on there. Many of them are very funny.
What do you want?
What?
What do you want?
What do you mean?
Do you want me to pay you or something? You're complimenting me. It's very odd.
No, I'm trying to plug your thing. I'm watching you. Isn't this what you do when you have a guest? It's like, you can find Stephanie at,
I don't know.
ignorantblondemoms.com. Whatever you want.
You're just jealous of my hair.
So I'm just plugging you. Like, I hope you will let me plug when I'm on your TikTok channel on a video. Yeah, we're going to talk.
It's live. You could plug it every 5 minutes if you want.
Every 5 minutes. You heard it. Okay, that's what I'm going to be doing. But you can find us every Sunday night, 7 p.m., Bible Thumper Podcast on Facebook or YouTube. Please follow us, join in, leave a comment. We definitely enjoy having everybody here. Stephanie, thank you for coming. We're going to have you in August and then again in September. We're going to be talking about some different stuff, so that'll be fun. Everyone have a great week.